and I made him watch.
Okay, so
like, you ended up blocking the dude?
Yeah, I blocked him just because, like, I feel like the dude was just wanting to troll. Like, that's all it was.
His username, his handle was like, "This is kind of gay," right? So I mean, automatically, gay. He was just trolling.
Yeah, and it's fine, but like, come on, man, like. People have better stuff to do.
Yeah. Well, and also, possibly by September, you don't have to worry about TikTok anymore.
True. R.I.P. TikTok.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to And I Made Him Watch, the podcast where I make my husband watch weird movies and we discuss how weird things really got. I'm your host, Dani Page, and here with me forever and always, the man who butters my bread, my partner and filmmaker, Troy Allen. Can I get a oh yeah?
Oh yeah.
Okay, well that's one way to do it.
R.I.P. Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, yeah.
Cream of the crop. Anyways, thank you all for joining in and listening to this episode. It's going to be a blast, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, of course, always.
This movie was actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad movie at all.
No.
Nope. So I made you watch Atomic Brain from 1963, and it's the oldest movie we've watched so far. It's also known as Monstrosity. It's about a rich old closeted lesbian that hires a crazy doctor to transplant her brain into a hot smoking blonde bombshell's body so she can be young again and have sex with her old handyman henchman, but psych, she's a cat. I gave it a 3.5 out of 10 at the time, but honestly, it's more like a 5 out of 10 after the second watch.
Yeah. So think like Poor Things meets The Twilight Zone. Like, I was honestly waiting for Rod Serling to kind of show up at any minute. Less
wholesome, less positive messages, though.
For sure. Absolutely.
Honestly, for a movie from the 60s, it wasn't that bad at all. It was a short film. And there's a ton of information packed into a little over an hour. And it's very Twilight Zone type film, complete with a disembodied voice that narrates the viewer throughout the movie, revealing information we don't get to see on screen. And I appreciate this a lot because without the narration, I wouldn't have known what was going on half the time.
Yeah. So, like, it's almost, it's like... Nightmare at 20,000 Feet with old William Shatner.
Oh, such a good episode.
There's something on the wing.
I saw that when I was too young, and it still affected me for a really long time.
Yeah.
That honestly, little gremlin out there in black and white.
Oh, yeah. It fucked me up, for sure.
Can you believe that William Shatner is 93?
That's wild.
So
Captain
fucking crazy.
James T. Kirk himself.
Such a long life.
I know.
And he looks good. He seems well put together.
Yeah. And in all honesty, in my mind, I have him to thank so much because I'm a huge fan of John Carpenter's Halloween franchise. Okay. And if it were not for his face,
right,
the shape would have been, something different. So kudos to Mr. William Shatner for allowing his face to be the face of Michael Myers.
I mean, did he allow it, or did they just use a melted and painted mask?
I think he would have had to have allowed it because that would have been like some sort of like copyright infringement, for using his likeness without his, knowledge.
I don't know what the copyright laws were like in the 70s. So
yeah, true.
It was a little more loosey-goosey back then,
True. I mean, but yeah, I think we definitely, at some point, we need to do an episode for the Twilight Zone movie.
Sure.
We will. We do.
We can.
All right.
That can be your next pick if you want for episode 20.
Okay. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Episode 20 is going to be the Twilight Zone, the movie.
Okay. Does the name Joseph V. Masali ring a bell to you?
Nope. He sounds like a made man, though, for sure. Some Chicago outfit stuff.
Really? Okay. Well, Masali was a cinematographer and director. Born August 1st, 1917. He left his mark on the world of cinema with a quirky mix of sci-fi, horror, and kind of rock and roll. According to his IMDb, Atomic Brain, aka Monstrosity, was his only film he directed. He is more known for his work in cinematography. His first work as a cinematographer was for the 1958 show Danger Is My Business. It's an informational show about job hazards. He also worked on Wild Guitar from 1962, which was a film about a young guy making it big in the music scene. I watched the trailer for this movie, and it was just a bunch of teenagers doing the twist while Arch Hall Jr. plays the guitar. His last film listed on IMDb was 1966, The Street Is My Beat, about a newlywed young woman learning that her husband is a pimp and then begins to work for him.
That sounds like my kind of movie right there.
Oh, you like that
yeah.
movie, huh? You like that idea? Is that what it is?
Gators bitches better be wearing jimmies.
God damn it.
That's all I need to know.
But what Masali was best known for was his famous book that is still published today, The 5 C's of Cinematography. Can you explain the 5 C's?
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about now?
Kinda, yeah. It sounded a little familiar, yeah. So the first C being camera angles. So typically you'd have, your high angles, mid, and low angles. Your high angles are more so to portray someone as being weak or small, And then your mid angles are more so just direct, someone talking to another person or whatever. And then your low angle is to show someone as larger than life, they're powerful in that scene. Composition is just, instead of like just taking a shot for what it is, you're building this shot. So like, you may see, a person on one side of the frame, but then you've got other things happening on the other side of the frame. If you've only got, a person on one side and nothing else, you have an unbalanced shot, Now you could shoot like a symmetrical shot with someone center frame, but it's kind of boring. Cutting is sort of kind of like, you're cutting together a scene, you're shooting it from different angles, which is called coverage. You've got to make sure you have enough coverage of a shot or a scene. If it's like a 2-shot with 2 people talking, you've got like a master shot with both of those people in it, and then maybe it's an over the shoulder of one of them talking, and then you cut to the other person talking. And then there's also this like imaginary line that goes across, these people down the center. And when you're shooting an over the shoulder, you never want to break that line. So if you're shooting, over someone's right shoulder, looking at someone else, when you cut to that other person, you've got to be on their left shoulder, or else it's going to look like the person who is talking, and then you cut and they're talking in the same direction. So it's kind of jarring, Mm-hmm. And then close-ups, a close-up is just tight on someone's face, if you want to show, emotion and stuff. And then for continuity, it's just making sure the shots fit together, making sure that if someone's wearing a watch on their left wrist in one shot, you don't want them wearing it on the right wrist.
Right.
Next shot. So, yeah.
Okay. So, the way this movie is filmed mostly is the shots are actually pretty good. The way he used his skills as a cinematographer really helped him with his role as director for this movie. I really think there are some really interesting shots, and they're really well put together. And towards the end of the movie, they kind of fall off, and we'll get into that in a second. On February 28th, 1981, Joseph passed away in Los Angeles, California.
R.I.P. Joseph.
Yep. So the wealthy Hetty March is portrayed by American actress Marjorie Lee Eaton, born on February 5th, 1901 in Oakland, California. Marjorie Eaton's creative journey began as an artist. She was raised in Palo Alto and then studied at the Art Institute of Boston. She also studied in Florence, Italy, and in Paris. Her art is very bold, like thick lines and vibrant colors. You can see a lot of Cubist influence in her art, and she used her talent as an artist to explore architecture and commercial art. She was a big part of the artist excuse me. She was a big part of the artist scene throughout the 1920s and 30s. She was friends and acquaintances ranging from renowned sculptor Louise Nevelson and the famous artist Frida Kahlo. As a woman in the art world, much like it is still today, it was a struggle to make a living on her art, and she began acting. Eaton is credited on IMDb with 51 roles that span from 1946 to 1984, which is impressive. According to her IMDb, her first role was in the 1946 movie Anna and the King of Siam. It was an unaccredited role as Miss McFarlane and was very minor. Her last movie was Crackers from 1984, about an awkward ragtag group that schemed to rob their local thrift shop. It seems like it would be an entertaining to watch. It's not a movie we'd do on the podcast because it's nowhere near like a B movie. But you've got you got Donald Sutherland, Sean Penn, Wallace Shawn, and Christine Baranski in this movie. So it's packed.
Who robs a thrift store?
Hey, desperate times. It's got like a vault or something in the.
Oh, okay. It's probably got some like famous like crown jewels or some shit.
Maybe. I watched a little bit about it. It actually seems like it'd actually be kind of funny. In 1979, at the age of 78, Eaton filmed a scene for the second Star Wars film, The Empire Strikes Back, in which she portrayed the role of Emperor Palpatine under heavy makeup. One other actress also was filmed in the makeup, but neither were credited for the scene, and the scene was replaced by one with Ian, how do you say it?
That's Ian McDiarmid.
Yeah, for the 2004 special edition.
My boy, old Sheev Palpatine. Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, I thought you'd enjoy that little factoid.
Well, because
did you know that?
Yeah, well, I knew that in the original production of The Empire Strikes Back, that wasn't originally Ian McDiarmid in the film. But I had no idea. Like, I didn't know who the actor or actress.
It was two actresses. I don't know which one is which. So.
But yeah, that's interesting to see that. In 1963, the person that's going to play fucking Emperor Palpatine, or one version of, is this crazy old fucking bitch trying to...
Don't be rude like that.
Sorry, this crazy old lady trying to put herself in a young woman's body. Anyways.
On April 21st, 1986, Margie took her final bow, leaving behind a legacy that blended creativity, courage, and a dash of unexpected.
I will say though, like her portrayal of Miss March in this movie, it kind of reminded me of Margaret Hamilton's character in The Wizard of Oz. Okay. Being the Wicked Witch of the East or whatever, or the West, whatever. Anyways, yeah, it was very interesting.
The Wicked Witch of the West is what it is.
Well, she wasn't Glinda. That I know.
No, Glinda's the good witch.
Glinda came down in a bubble, Doug.
Oh,
sorry. Anyways.
Our Mad Doctor is portrayed by the actor Frank Gerstle. Frank Gerstle was a prolific American character actor born on September 27th, 1915 in New York City. His diverse career spanned from the late 40s to his untimely death in 1970, leaving a mark in film, radio, and television. Notable for his roles in films like DOA in 1949, which was a gripping noir thriller where he played Dr. McDonald, and then he also was in 1950's Outside the Wall, a film about a police struggle to reintegrate into society, where Gerstle played a stick-up man. He was adept to bring depth to a variety of supporting characters. His distinctive voice also graced popular radio shows such as The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show, a comedy series, and resonated in TV roles, including his appearance as various characters in High Road Patrol, a crime drama series, and San Francisco International Airport, a show centering around the lives of airport staff. Though many of Gerstle's contributions were uncredited, his performances in projects like the Neanderthal, I can't say it.
The Neanderthal.
The Neanderthal Man in 1953, a science fiction film about a scientist who turns himself into a prehistorical caveman, and The Bad and the Beautiful in 1952, a classic tale of Hollywood ambition and betrayal, showcases versatile acting skill. Sadly, on February 23rd, 1970, his life was cut short by cancer at the age of 54. He was
R.I.P.
so young.
Yep. I mean, his portrayal as Dr. Frank in this movie, though, was very good. Mm-hmm. Like, very, I don't know, like mad scientist, which was the role, but like...
It was almost like he had morals a little bit.
A little bit.
But he definitely cared about more of his discovery and experiments.
Yeah, and, well, that and the money. I think he really wanted the money.
The funding. It was more about the funding.
True,
Funding.
Yeah. Yep.
Hetty's lover slash handyman slash henchman is played by the actor Frank Fowler. There's actually not a lot of information about Fowler on the net. Frank Fowler was an actor whose unique roles in both film and television captivated audiences and left a lasting impression on the silver screen. With his versatile acting skills, Frank brought a distinctive flair to every character he portrayed, making a significant contribution to the genre of espionage and drama. On television, Frank showcased his range of compelling performances in a series like I Led 3 Lives in 1953, where he stepped onto the role of Comrade Farrell Ames. The show, set during the Cold War era, was ripe with espionage and undercover missions, and Frank's portrayal brought depth and tension to the atmosphere, keeping viewers on the edge of their seats. Additionally, in Your Jeweler Showcase in 1952, he appeared as an actor involved in narratives filled with jewelry and drama, adding a touch of intrigue into the world of gemstones with each episode.
Yeah, he his portrayal of Victor in this movie, though, was very, like, a man of intrigue. Like, you couldn't really read him, you know.
He was just a horny old man trying to make sure he, like, had money, you know.
He was, in fact, a gigolo. Yep. That's what they called him.
It's exactly what, that is a word they used, yes.
Oof.
Our lone survivor, Nina, is how they pronounced it in the movie, is portrayed by actress Erica Peters. She was born Marie Erica Knapp in...
I think that's Königsberg.
Königsberg, but now Kaliningrad in Eastern Prussia. Eastern Prussia. Lived a life as dramatic as the role she played. Orphaned near the end of World War II, Erica was among the civilians evacuated in 1945 after losing her parents to violence by Red Army soldiers. Resurfacing in West Berlin a decade later, she embarked on her acting career with a role in the fairy tale film You took German.
Das Sandmännchen.
Das Sandmännchen.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Sandman.
Yeah, the Sandman. In 1955, inspired by Oscar Wilde's The Canterville Ghost, a story about a ghost haunting an old English mansion, adapted into a whimsical narrative for children. She also lent her voice in the German version of Mickey Mouse. Adopting the name Erica Peters after marrying an American and moving to the U.S. in 1957, she first supported herself by importing used Volkswagens and later running a coin-operated laundromat in Los Angeles. Her American screen debut came in 1959, leading into roles in G.I. Blues in 1960, an Elvis Presley musical where she played alongside Presley as he navigated love and life in the army in West Germany. And Heroes Die Young in 1960, a war drama exploring the themes of courage and sacrifice. Her foray into horror included films like Mr. Sardonicus in 1961, about a man with a horrifying frozen grimace who goes to great lengths to find a cure, and The House of the Damned in 1963, involving a mysterious occurrence around an old, secluded mansion. She also appears on television, notably in the episode of Jack Webb's G.E. True in 1962, playing a role that famously required fitting into a suitcase. After retiring from acting following her marriage to costume designer Cy DeVore, and later to Robert M. Brunson, Erica reinvented herself as a successful interior designer and antique reproduction furniture creator, dedicating her profits to animal welfare and serving on the board of the Humane Society in the United States. Erica passed away on May 17th, 2022 in Los Angeles. So she actually had a very long life and it seems fulfilled.
Yeah. It's crazy that she died not too long ago. I couldn't imagine having to fit yourself inside of a suitcase,
That's
though.
what you fit.
Yeah, like...
That's what you locked on?
No, dude, I wouldn't do that. Like, pass. But that is interesting, learning about her history from her coming from East Prussia and all that stuff. And, that's crazy in and of itself, without having to stuff yourself inside of a suitcase. But, that's just me.
The Boxum and first choice of Hetty B is played by Judy Bomber. She was born Judith Lee Bomber on October 13th in 1936 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and embarked on an eventful journey from high school model to Hollywood actress. With a distinctive heritage that blends German English and Native American roots, she grew up in a family where her father worked as an engineer at the Ford Motor Company, and motivated by a desire to improve her posture and lose weight, Judy began a modeling career during her high school years, which led her to pursue the profession more seriously in Detroit after graduating in 1954. Bomber moved to Los Angeles in 1955. Her early days were marked by a variety of jobs, including working at as a car hop, laundry clerk, babysitter, dishwasher, before briefly owning her own modeling agency. Her career modeling saw her featured in JCPenney, a catalog, and becoming a celebrated pinup girl. Her foray into acting was fueled by live commercials and an introduction to drama coach Joe Graham, which eventually led her to Warner Brothers acting. Judy made a lasting impression in the film industry with roles in several movies and television series during the 50s and the 60s. Notably, her portrayal of Rhoda in teen drama Drag Strip Girl in 1957, set in the world of drag racing, teenage rebellion, and love triangles, and appeared in Mabel Up in Smoke in 1957, a crime drama exploring the seedy underbelly of Los Angeles, complete with gangsters, double crosses, and suspense. Monstrosity or Atomic Brain is actually listed as her last acting role in her career on IMDb. Beyond the screen, she was a frequent cover model for men's magazines like Modern Man, View, and Glamour Parade. In the mid-1960s, Judy shifted her focus to family life, stepping away from the limelight to raise her children after marrying Douglas W. McClary in 1967. The couple had a son, Brooke S., in 1971. Following McClary's death in 2004, Judy remarried and continues to reside in Los Angeles, California.
Hey, at least Judy's still with us.
Yes, she is.
When you talked about that film Up in Smoke, I was like, I don't remember her being in Up in Smoke. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking of the Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke.
Yes,
and that's a whole other movie.
That is a very different movie. Different time.
Yeah, hilarious. Also, interesting that she went to the Warner Brothers acting school. I didn't know that Warner Brothers had an acting school, so that's...
I'm not sure if it's still a thing now, but they definitely did have one.
Yeah, probably not, but interesting.
So I couldn't find much information about the actress that played Anita, only that her name is Lisa Lang. She's credited with only 5 roles on IMDb, and all of them minor or unaccredited roles. The Black Cat was named Xerxes, who was owned by Judy. Bomber, and the narrator was Bradford Dillman, and he was a brother of one of the writers.
Interesting. Nice. Well,
The
yeah.
The film originally had a budget of $25,000. That's about $260,583.04 in money today. So not the biggest budget, but a good chunk of change. So the film began filming. The film began. So they began filming in 1958, and only took 10 days. Then the production had to be paused because the company went bankrupt halfway through shooting. The movie was edited a lot to try to fix it and put it together, and then was released finally in 63. That's wrong. I put 53. It's 63. One of the producers, Jack Pollocksfin, actually fired Masali and finished directing the picture himself. I tried to find the reason why Masali was fired, but I couldn't dig anything up. It's probably because of the money. But I think that's why we see such a big difference in how it's shot towards the end of the movie. Because in the beginning, we get a lot of like really good shots of how the story is being played out. And then it kind of gets a little jumbled at the end.
Yeah, the ending was kind of...
lackluster.
Yeah. A bunch of running. Yeah.
I really also wanted to try to find the house that they used in filming. But the only filming locations were like Los Angeles and Airport Boulevard and Avon Drive, which is all like airport stuff.
Yep. Well, when we get a chance, we'll just drive on down to LA and we'll just go
look at the airport.
Scout it out. Yeah, we'll go look at the airport.
I don't want to go to LAX ever again, honestly. I don't.
Fuck that airport, man.
Atomic Brain begins like a rejected Twilight Zone episode, where our narrator explains the horrors and fears of the modern science of transplants. Transplanting skin, faces, hearts, all that jazz. He then informs us that Dr. Otto Frank, a character named after Anne Frank's father, yes, that Anne Frank, has grave robbed the body of a young woman and has transplanted an animal's brain into the corpse and is bringing the body back to life with electricity in some sort of atomic chamber. The narrator tells us that this experiment is successful, and the next step is to transplant a human brain.
Girl, let me tell you. So, and as soon as they said his name, Dr. Otto Frank, I was like, excuse me? Mm-hmm. Otto Frank? Like the Otto Frank? That was wild. I was like, bruh.
There was no reason that I couldn't find out why.
No.
I don't even know if it actually is him, like being named after Mr. Frank.
I don't know,
but it's too much on the head.
Yeah, that's kind of an odd name to name a character and not be.
It's the 60s too, so the Diary of Anne Frank is.
Yeah, it's probably like right there on the tip of everybody's mind, more so than it is today, but yeah, and then I don't know if it was in this scene, but they mentioned the cyclotron, and the cyclotron is something that's featured in Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. It's in their little plasma packs or whatever that they wear. So I was like, yo, did Ghostbusters steal the cyclotron? Interesting. I'd like to know. Dan Aykroyd, if you ever hear this, would you let us know? Did you steal the cyclotron from Atomic Brain? Thank you.
The next scene is of Dr. Frank trying to get new material, aka a new freshly dead body from the graveyard. He's chipping away at this tomb as one of the watchmen is wandering around just doing his job, trying to protect all them dead bodies. As the guard begins to hear Dr. Frank, he is attacked by this werewolf cat looking guy inside a mausoleum. The narrator explained that this were-cat wolf thingy is a failed experiment of Dr. Frank's that is the body of a man with the brain of an animal. They call him several different things, but he's the character is Hans.
Yeah.
but there's no actor's name
Yeah.
attached to it.
Like, what first stood out to me was like security guards drinking on the job, getting his little nip in. Like, come on, bro, you got stuff to do. And then we see this Wolfman, and I'm like, yo, this guy, he looks like Lon Chaney's Wolfman from like 1941. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's really good makeup, really good. Even though like Lon Chaney did like his own makeup, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also, like the Dr. Frank thing, did they not think we were going to catch on to that?
I don't know.
I mean, he's Dr. Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah, that
Franks,
part.
Dr. Franks.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Dr. Frank gets the new body back to the old mansion basement he works out of and begins the process of his experiments. The narrator informs us that he had been promised fresh bodies and then introduces Dr. Frank's employer, Hetty March. Hetty is just an old rich lady that wants to be young again, and money is not a problem. We also get our first look at Hetty's gigolo, Victor. It's revealed that Hetty and Victor have had a long relationship and that Hetty doesn't really care for people because all they want from her is money. Hetty is actually going through the resumes for a servant girl, which includes their body measurements, and she's just shopping for bodies pretty much. It doesn't tell us anything about the ad that Hetty puts out in the movie, but on some of the old movie posters, the ad reads, "Wanted, youth and beauty, will pay millions. Only beautiful and shapely girls need apply. No reference required. Appointments after dark only." The three of the girls are actually going to be coming to her house so she can see them in person, so she can choose which body she likes more.
I think what struck me by surprise in that scene, when Dr. Franks is, he's got the woman in the chamber and she's like strapped up or whatever. The fact that it's 1960s, and they've got these like scantily clad women in this chamber, I was like, yo, that's pretty taboo for the time. I mean, we had only just a few years prior seen a flushing toilet on screen, so like, but yeah, like, and then Dr. Frank's talking about, if there's ever a chance of them being caught, they'll just...
Oh, I'll get into that.
Oh.
Yes, you're getting ahead of yourself.
But yeah.
So due to hearing about the death of the watchman on the radio, Hetty is upset. Victor rings Dr. Frank, but he and Hetty just go down to the basement instead. So not sure what's going on, because she's like, "Get the doctor," and he like rings a bell or something, and then they go to him instead of him coming to him. So I don't know what that was about. Hetty and Victor complain that Dr. Frank is going to bring the police to the front door over his grave robbing and the death of the watchman. Dr. Frank explains if he ever thinks the police are onto him, he'll blow the whole place up with a nuclear bomb, pretty much. Like, Dr. Frank is going down with the ship, and he is prepared.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. That dude, he's like gangster for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, setting off a nuke is one way to get rid of evidence, but I do think it's a bit extreme.
Maybe just a tiny bit.
So that's fine.
Tiny bit.
Also, like, we have a character named Victor Frankenstein.
Yep.
Like, come on, dude. Come on. Jeez.
Be more original, please. Dr. Frank shows up. Dr. Frank shows his latest experiment, and Hetty isn't convinced that the body shows any signs of life. So Frank is like, bet, and goes into the chamber and holds his hand up in front of the body, and the woman's corpse just opens her eyes. Apparently, this body lacks only one thing, a brain. Dr. Frank explains that Farnsworth, or Hans, the werewolf cat thingy, is still alive when he was in his accident, and that's why his transplant was such a success. So yeah, he has this new body, just like in the chamber, and it's just laying there, and then
they don't do anything
brain.
with it. No, like it's just there to like as a proof of concept, I guess.
I guess.
But that's where yeah, I won't get into it, but like I started to pick up the whole like it kind of felt like Poor Things to me. Like
Because of the lack of brain, or
sorta. It's not so much the lack of the brain, it's just the very, infantile sort of behavior from
the walking corpse is what she's called in the movie.
Yeah. So it just felt very,
Influenced by.
yeah. But
yeah.
vice versa.
I know.
So,
The three girls that Hetty has chosen arrive and are picked up from the airport by Victor. We have Nina, who is from Austria. She's very proper and friendly mannered. B, who is from England, she's a little bit more of a party girl vibe, and also can't decide what accent she has throughout the whole movie. And then Anita is from Mexico, who apparently doesn't speak English and looks very timid. They seem like the perfect victims for Frank. They're thousands of miles away from family and friends, and there's no one to ask questions when they disappear.
that was literally the only thing I picked up from that scene was they sound awful American to be foreign. Other than Anita. Anita tried to have an accent.
Tried, yes. But it's very... it verges on racism.
Yeah, it
with
was
how
very
she's
like
portrayed.
Stereotypical Hispanic speak. But like the only sort of accent that I got was more so of a transatlantic accent from like that time period, which was kind of a mixture of like English American sort of speak. But with Nina being from Austria, she should have more of a like Germanic dialect.
Yes.
So
she sounds American.
And
then, B, who's portrayed by Judy, is literally from, in the Prussia or Germany kind of area, you know. And she is supposed to be British. There's no, like, British accent ever when she's speaking. It's almost Southern sometimes, actually.
You talking about Judy? Mm-hmm. Well, so Judy was from Detroit. The actress? Nina was from East Prussia.
Wait. Oh, Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor. That's right. Okay, yeah, I got it mixed up. Sorry, folks. I got my shit mixed up. All right, so anyway, their accents were off. That's the whole point. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So the narrator informs us how Victor is feeling about this crazy mess. Victor wonders who Hetty will pick and that he knows who he would pick already. So he already has a favorite. And if it was up to him, he, of course would choose who he liked more. He still finds the thought of having sex with an 80-year-old woman in a 20-year-old body kind of insane. And he doesn't like the thought of hurting the girls, but he's more worried about himself. Victor lets the girls know that there are no neighbors or other servants in the mansion when they arrive.
That's fine because, in the end, Victor gets what's coming to him,
Yeah.
So.
When they get inside the house, Anita right away and off the bat spots the werewolf cat guy and screams. And Victor brushes off the questions and just has the girls go upstairs. The girls meet Hetty for the first time, and she starts to examine the girls right there and then, and it's a little weird. Downstairs, Victor goes to fetch the doctor, and the narrator explains that Dr. Frank has let the living corpse of the girl just kind of wander around the lab. Back upstairs, Hetty tells Dr. Frank to examine the girls thoroughly and stops Victor from following the girls, and the doctor saying the doctor can handle it himself. And Hetty then berates Victor for not disconnecting the phone and to keep the girls from calling the police or for help. Yeah, Victor is a fucking creep.
Yeah, he is, for sure. When Anita is spooked by Hans, the werewolf cat thingy, the first thing that popped into my mind was, that looks like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, very Neanderthalic features. But
tiny eyes.
Big, tiny eyes, but big boar teeth,
What is that? What is it? Alcohol fetal syndrome? I'm pretty sure that's what that she had. I'm pretty positive.
Kinda, yeah.
Tiny
And then,
little face, big head. You know what I mean?
like,
Tiny little face, big head.
it's like I want to just tell her, like, I'm sorry this happened to you. Anyways, and then when we see the walking corpse walking around the lab and stuff, that's when I was like, this is Poor Things. That's literally Bella Baxter just walking around the lab. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Well, Bella was a child, and this is a body without a brain somehow working.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah, but you could also say, like, not having a brain is somewhat infantile in nature.
Kinda, yeah.
I mean, they're trying to figure out their environment and stuff.
Yeah, but it doesn't, like, it's impossible. It's like an impossible situation in both cases. But I get where you are connecting the two.
Okay.
Apparently because Anita has a birthmark on birthmark. And apparently because Anita has a birthmark on her back, she's deemed useless by Hetty, and Dr. Frank can do whatever he wants with her. Isn't that just so nice?
Yay.
Nina has already had enough and demands to be let go, but Hetty's just like, sign an agreement, yada yada. B claims to have the same measurements as Marilyn Monroe, and Hetty is getting a good look at Bea's backside, and she is being a creep. Victor comes in and asks if B is the lucky girl, and Hetty's like, yeah.
What I didn't understand, though, is you've got these three women, and they come to this house after dark, and they're just kind of hanging out, getting undressed, but none of them really stop to ask, like, what is the job?
They're domestic housekeepers.
Yeah, but
they're foreign domestics is what they call themselves.
Okay, that's fair, but they didn't find it odd that they were being undressed? Or was that just kind of normal in the 50s and 60s?
I think maybe they thought maybe it was for uniforms or something. Because Nina even says, like, we're not getting uniforms.
She does. Yeah, she does
mentions
say that.
that.
Well, not me. I wouldn't be. I'd be like, girl,
So B is the chosen one and is given her own room on the main floor of the house. Anita is put in the basement, and Nina gets a room in the attic, just splitting the girls up. Nina sneaks out of her room and discovers the phone line has been cut, and Nina is the goat, honestly. She is on top of everything,
Honestly, like, in this scene, there's one of the best shots of the whole film. When Nina walks to the railing at the landing of the stairs or whatever, and she looks down, and the camera is shooting down the stairwell, and you've got this, like, spiral wrap staircase, and you just see Anita down at the bottom of the stairs, and it's meant to be, like, disorienting and stuff, but I think it's foreshadowing what's going to happen to Anita because Anita is the target, and it's like, everything is, for her is going to go, like, apeshit, basically, which, we'll see later on in the film, but it was very interesting for sure.
It was a really good shot. There's been some really good shots up to this point.
Yeah.
Anita is awoken in the middle of the night by a knock at her door. She goes up to answer it, and Anita screams, and then it cuts to black. And the next morning, B and Nina discuss Anita's disappearance. The combo is interrupted by Hetty, and she's complaining that B is getting her hands dirty. Don't want to stain that merchandise, you know what I mean? Nina asked about Anita, and Hetty is confused at first, and then was like, "Oh, she left last night." And Nina tries to quit again, and Hetty's really not having it. Just brushes her off and goes about her things.
I loved Nina's, like, the look on her face when Hetty's like, let her wash the dirty dishes and then you wipe them dry or some shit like that. And Nina's like, the fuck? The fuck you mean? I thought it was so funny.
It's very clear now that B isn't supposed to be doing anything, like work or even go up and down stairs. Nina and B start to snoop around and they find all of Anita's things still in her room, and they both agree that they need to get the fuck out of Dodge. Meanwhile, Dr. Frank is getting ready to transfer his cat's brain into Anita's body, or Anita's still living body, for the final experiment before it's Hetty's turn.
Yeah, when B comes up the stairs, Hetty is like yelling for Nina or whatever. B comes up and Hetty's just like, she tells her to not fucking climb the stairs because she's like, you don't want your legs to get those ugly muscles or some shit like that.
Yeah.
You
That's
know.
beauty standards of like the 1950s and early 60s is,
Yeah.
oh God.
Yeah, it's very night and day between today, modern times, and back then.
Like people want to have like nice shapely legs and like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, being muscular
it's
you
not
know,
bad.
It's not bad. It
Yeah.
just means that you're fit. You know, you're strong. And then when Dr. Frank's about to transfer the cat's brain and stuff, I was like, no, not the cat.
Poor kitty.
Like, why? Why, man?
The girls are trying to sneak out of the house and avoid Hetty at this point. They sneak downstairs but are cut off when they see Hetty in the basement. Meanwhile, Dr. Frank is getting his Frankenstein on, but the brainless girl gets out of his lab and begins wandering around the estate. Hetty is trying to find B to make sure they didn't escape, and Nina and B are just chilling in a room, and Hetty locks them up tight. And I would be going out the window, man. Like, I don't, at this point, if I have taken a job where it's like a live-in anything.
Yeah.
And they're acting like this and they lock me in a room?
It was right.
Windows. Windows exist.
Bro, like, I'd be tying some sheets together and just kind
Something.
of rappel down. So after Hetty locks them in the room, she walks back down the stairs and she's got that cane, right? Mm-hmm. And I had the funniest thought when she's walking down. I was like, what if for some reason like the cane just got stuck and she like took another step without her cane and then just kind of stopped and then she did a somersault down the
fucking
stairs.
Willy Wonka?
Yeah,
God.
she just hopped up like fucking Willy Wonka. At that point, you'd be like, what the fuck is this movie even? I have no idea what's going to happen next. I'd be like glued to the fucking TV screen. Oh, man. Oh, was it? I think it was this time when she's, was it this time when she was yelling out like B? Like when she's walking through the basement and stuff?
Yeah, she was trying to find them, yeah.
Yeah, so when she's in the basement and she yells out, B, I was like, okay, there's bees. What do you want to do about the bees, man? I don't know. Like, fuck them bees. No, don't fuck the bees. Bees are good for the earth. So,
Bees are very important.
yes.
Victor shows up. Apparently, he's been out in town to see Hetty's lawyer, and he's coming up in the morning to change her will. They go down into the basement and check on Frank's progress with Anita, who is now has the brain of a cat. Hetty questions Anita's instincts as a cat, and Frank's like, LOL, watch this shit. He lets a mouse free, and Anita catches it and eats it.
I can't recall ever seeing a cat actually eat a mouse. Like, I've seen cats kill mice.
Like,
whatever.
play with them and stuff. But
Yeah.
I don't know if they eat them unless they're like, feral cats.
Yeah. But she slapped the shit out of old Hetty, didn't she? Mm-hmm. I was
Cat
like,
did not like Hetty.
hell no. I wouldn't either. Like, fuck you, bitch.
Meanwhile, the brainless beauty, or the wandering corpse, who I guess no one has noticed is missing from the lab, has made it outside. B and Nina notice the girl and question if it's Anita, but B's like, nah. They witness the werewolf cat thingy attack the brainless beauty, killing her. Dr. Frank then goes outside and chains up Hans.
Yeah, so when he's out there, he goes to check if the corpse is alive, right? And he bends down to check the pulse and stuff. If you're paying attention, he bends down and checks the pulse, and then the clip is played in reverse from that point.
Yes, it is.
And I was like, Good job. I noticed it, but
At least they put the effort in. I mean, they didn't
Yeah.
have to. They could have just cut, like to a different scene after seeing him.
they could
check.
have. But it would have been kind of jarring because it was like, okay, well, what was the results of that? Is she alive or not? I don't know.
Nina is trying to figure out a way to get out of there. They agree that the only way out is to get the car. B says that Victor has the way to the Victor is the way to the car, and she begins to try to seduce him. So they take a little stroll outside, and now that Hans, or the werewolf cat guy, is safely chained up and can't bother them. Before they can really get frisky, Hetty calls Victor, and he leaves B outside alone. B then stumbles across the cat-brained Anita and tries to talk to her, and cat Anita ends up attacking B and scratches her eye out.
Yeah, that cat Anita, she kind of feral.
Yeah, that cat was crazy.
She's like,
Not a nice kitty at all.
yeah, dude, fucking crazy.
Inside, Nina notices that Hans is growling up at the roof and opens her window to find cat Anita on the roof. Nina goes up onto the roof to rescue the cat girl, but cat Anita ain't having it, and Nina follows the cat girl across the roof until she eventually falls. Anita eventually falls from the roof, killing herself.
Yeah, I felt bad for Anita. Like, she didn't have to fall to her death all comical and shit like that. Like, she could have had a better death.
Yeah, she could have.
You know,
Yeah.
sad.
But there's that foreshadowing that you were talking about earlier about the banisters.
Yeah. Well,
and the
there's
stairs.
There's that. And then when we see Anita dead on the ground, it's that same shot without the stairs, but we're looking down at Anita.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
yeah, that's that foreshadowing.
In the basement, Nina discovers Hetty, Victor, and Dr. Frank looming over B's body, and she lets him know that Anita is dead. Dr. Frank has this self-righteous speech about his work, and yada yada. B comes to, and Nina's like, girl, we gotta get ready to go. B freaks out when she realizes what's happened to her, and then is sedated by Dr. Frank. Also, Nina seems to be somewhat aware at what's going on at this point. Also, Hetty went shopping.
Yeah, like, you know, there was probably some sweet, like, Sunday deals or some shit that she had to go get.
Well,
you know?
she's shopping for clothes for her new body.
Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, like, there's shit going on here at the house. Like, it's kind of important, you know?
She don't care.
Whatever.
There's this really awkward scene with Nina modeling the new clothes for Hetty, and Victor just invites himself into seeing it, and Hetty calls Victor her age Lochnavar, which is a new word I learned from this movie. Lochnavar is a term from the 1800s that means romantic suitor. Yeah.
Yep, he is the gigolo.
You just like to say gigolo.
I don't know. Every time I hear gigolo, it reminds me of that Rob Schneider movie, you know?
Oof, Rob Schneider.
Yeah. He's not dead or anything. He's just crazy.
Anyway, Hetty tells Victor to hit the road and get the fuck out of there, you know? Breaking up with him, crushing him, everything. He doesn't and is getting sloshed in the library when Nina finds him. Nina questions what's going on, and he's just like, you'll be the one of the richest people in the world, and that there's already been a press release written up. Nina pleads for Victor to save her and B, and he's like, okay, sure, whatever. He then writes up this little document that makes Nina sign it without showing her the details he's written. I guess that's somehow binding in a way. But little did they know, Hetty was lurking in the shadows and witnessed everything. She then stabs Victor in the neck with a knitting needle. She then stabs Victor in the neck with a knitting needle.
Like, honestly, I feel like that's a very cliche way of getting killed by some, like,
Old woman.
elderly woman.
Yeah, I like it.
Being stabbed by a knitting needle.
I mean, it's
But the thing is, like, they didn't even show her stabbing him. Like, it kind of, like, the camera, there was sort of like a close up, and then he just kind of makes this face and the sound, you know, so he's been stabbed, and then afterwards the camera kind of pulls back and you see like some blood, but you never actually see her stab him. He just kind of assumes this stab wound and then dies. So I mean, it was the 60s, so I get it, but at the same time it's like, come on, man. Like, there's times where you've got to show that sort of thing. But to be fair, like, even in like Psycho, we never actually saw Norma Bates.
Well, we saw the shadow and everything.
Yeah, you see the shadow, but you don't actually see
the violence,
the action. Yeah, so yeah, it is what it is.
Downstairs, Bee's being a little whiny bitch and doesn't want to go. Nina tells her that she's going to get Victor to carry her out of here, and then discovers his body and Hetty waiting for her. They sedate Nina, and Dr. Frank gets the two women ready for surgery. Hetty had a monologue about how no one really loved her and just wanted to use her for money, yada yada.
That monologue lasted entirely too long.
Yeah, it did. So Dr. Frank has a last minute change of heart. Nina wakes up and Dr. Frank tells her, we don't have to blow this place up, and wants Nina to fund his experiments. And he reveals instead of putting her brain into Nina's body, he has put Hetty's brain into his cat's body. What a twist.
Yep, I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, damn, they done turned Miss March into the damn cat. Mm-hmm. But you reap what you sow,
So as Nina is struggling to get free from Dr. Frank's, from the table or whatever, he goes into the reactor because Nina hasn't agreed to do what he wants. So I guess he's just like, well, all right then, we'll do what we have to do. He goes into the reactor he's been using to transplant the brains and stuff, and the cat Hetty jumps up onto the control panel and pretty much vaporizes Dr. Frank, and he turns into a skeleton. I pretty much vapes Dr. Frank.
Like poof.
Bee wakes up and hears the vaping and stumbles out of her room and down the hallway into the lab. She also rips off her bandage, and we see the gore of what is now her missing eyeball in her face, and she looks so cool. The special effects makeup for this was so well done for the time. It's just very brief, and you've got that light swinging, and it's so good.
Yeah, it was very gory for what we had seen in the film.
Yeah.
And also, I just loved how Bee just suddenly turned into fucking Matt Murdock, Daredevil, and was like stumbling through the damn halls. Saved fucking Nina. I was like, cool, man. What's next, huh? The cat. It's ridiculous.
So Bee makes it in time to release Nina before the reactor blows, but Bee is then electrocuted by the machine and dies. Nina is able to escape the house before it blows up, along with the cat Hetty following her close behind. And that is the end of the movie.
Yeah, it turns into like It Follows, except it is the cat.
It's a cat.
And Nina is being chased. It's like that, would you accept $1 billion if you knew that the $1 billion came with a snail that followed you for the rest of your life? And the snail always knew where you were, and if the snail ever came into contact with you, you would die. But there's no limitations on where you could go. You could go all the way across the planet. Mm-hmm. But the snail would always follow you.
Yep.
I mean, it is a snail, but in this case, it's a cat.
What if you just put a jar over the snail?
I suppose you could do that.
And just...
Yeah, fuck that snail. I would.
What happens if the snail dies?
I don't know. I think the snail is immortal.
Okay, so what if you put the snail in a jar, cast that jar in cement, and threw it in the middle of the ocean or the Marianas Trench.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
I think that would work, but I feel like eventually the snail would get out somehow.
How?
I don't know. It's a story.
I know. Okay, we're getting off. Okay, so I want a remake of this movie. I want Eli Roth to remake this. I think he can make it bizarre and weird enough for it to be a great movie.
Yeah, I can see that. And in my mind, I think it would be a great film to remake. I think the only thing people could say about it that would be somewhat bad is that people would say, "Oh, it's Poor Things, but a horror version of Poor Things."
Yeah, but this is the OG. You know?
Yeah, I know.
It's obviously very influenced by like Frankenstein.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, you've got Dr. Franks, who is named Otto Frank, and you've got a Victor.
Yeah.
There's brain transplants,
Grave robbing, henchmen that are morphed and just disfigured.
Yep, Hans. You've got a cat.
So
many people are the cat. Anyways.
Okay, so what would you rate this movie?
I would give it probably like a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean, for it being the early 60s, it was a decent movie. And I feel like it should be noted that the runtime for this movie was 65 minutes. So just over an hour.
An hour and 5 minutes.
So,
and it's so much information. It doesn't feel like it's just an hour long, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's a story that is told decently well with what they had to work with.
Right.
Because obviously the company went bankrupt.
Right.
And then you also fire a director, so you have to direct it yourself. And it's a lot. But with the information and how the story is told, it's an interesting story enough to like really get you into it. You know what I mean? Like it holds your attention.
Yeah. So I thought it was really good. It kind of reminded me of, like I said, Poor Things, a little bit of Ghostbusters, not quite Ghostbusters, but some elements there. I
definitely feel like it has influenced a lot of movies and stuff.
Yeah. But overall, I would say that it was a good movie. It was a good watch.
Oh, yeah.
So I would, if I had to, I would watch it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would watch it again too. It's definitely, even though we gave it a 5 out of 10, it's a rewatchable. Definitely.
Yeah. But we would love to hear your thoughts on it. Have you ever seen this movie? And if so, what did you think about it? If you haven't, what movies would you like to see?
Yeah, like what's your favorite B horror movies that we have not yet touched on?
Yeah.
I mean, I still have a list of movies. We still have tons of content to get through. But I'd like to hear about other people's, views and their favorites.
Yeah.
And maybe something that I've never seen. I love discovering movies that I've never seen, especially in this genre.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, cinema is meant to be shared. Much like any other art. So.
Yeah. But thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you all for listening. We've enjoyed making this episode. We hope you enjoyed as much listening to it. If you would like, you can follow us on Spotify. Give us a rating if you like this episode. We've got tons of other episodes on there. You can follow us on all our socials. You can also reach us at our email, andimadehimwatch@gmail.com. We also have a website, www.andimadehimwatch.com, where you can find information about us, the podcast, as well as links to all of our socials. So until next time, stay spooky.
Bye!
Bye. Thanks for diving into the mind-boggling Atomic Brain with us. I'm Troy Allen, and with Dani Page, we unravel the mysteries of horror one B movie at a time. Big shout out to Dani's sleuthing and my tech skills. Our quirky soundtrack, courtesy of Tori Wolf and Epidemic Sound, sets the scene. Get ready for our next mind-bending adventure as Dani throws me into the spooky world of spookies. More thrills and laughs await. Don't miss it. Buckle up and prepare for a wild ride. And as always, stay spooky and keep those popcorn bowls ready.